Welcome to Old Roommates. Today on the show, the facts of life. So take the good, take the bad, and take a seat.
Hey, everybody. It's Brian.
And Christina.
And welcome to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. Before we go any further, we are recording once again at What Chair Writers Club, a nonprofit supporting Rhode Island's content creators. Visit them online at whatchairclub.org or stop by club headquarters at 160 West Minster Street in downtown Providence, Rhode Island.
Wow.
What Chair Writers Club is not responsible for any content produced in the club studio.
Wow, Brian, that was
I think I nailed
flawless.
it. I nailed it.
That was flawless.
I knew we'd get there eventually.
Now, let me just press this record button.
So this is great. We are going to be revisiting Facts of Life. And so quick disclaimer, I guess, right? So Christina reached out to me when we started the Facts of Life, watching it separately, and she said, are you aware that Miss Joe Polnicek is nowhere to be found in season one? Because we agreed that Joe provided a slight shift in the dynamic of that whole show.
Right.
At least we remembered it that way, right?
Oh,
we remembered it that way.
definitely.
And so Christina said, why don't we watch a few episodes of season one and season two? Why not?
Why not?
So we watched 5 and 5. We watched 5 episodes of season 1 and 5 episodes of season 2.
Right. Because typically when we're revisiting a TV show or series, we will go back to the first season. And I really feel like we would have given our listeners a disservice if we had just done season 1. And I don't know why I cannot speak today.
Well, you're also banging things. You usually bang the desk.
It's going to be a long day.
So we start as we always do with then Christina, and we have not talked about the content of this.
No,
we've only talked about the idea of Joe. So the importance of it. So I'm dying to hear what your connection is with this show back then.
Well, I used to love this show. I used to watch it, not necessarily religiously, but I enjoyed it. I just thought it was fun. It was just something that we did. I was young. It was 1979.
Yes.
So I was, what does that make me? Again, I can't even add. I can't even add. It was a rough night last night, folks. So I was like 12 years old, I'll just say. And
well, yeah,
so
that's right. That's right.
So we're home. Yeah. I don't remember what night it was on or anything, but we would sit and watch it, with my sisters, and it was a fun show. I enjoyed it. Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Did you have did you relate to any of the students?
Well, I think that this type of show, we've talked about this before with, Sex and the City.
Yeah, they're all kind of archetypes.
It's everybody, I mean, everybody sort of relates to a certain, part of each of those characters. I will say if there was one character I related to, it was probably Joe. I mean, maybe not in her first introduction. I mean, I was never that angry, but I related to her. Because I'm not really a private school kind of girl. Yeah, I'm definitely not a Blair. Maybe Natalie, just because I'm kind of cracking jokes. So maybe a combination between Natalie and Joe.
Yeah,
what about you?
That's good. So my connection with the show, I watched it a lot. I gave up, and I don't know what this says about me. I kind of became disinterested whenever guys entered the picture.
Interesting.
Yeah, I liked the dynamic of the girls, and and I really liked all of them. I think even back then, I loved Blair. So and not so much that I related most to Blair, but I appreciated her always wanting the best and sort of priding herself on her amazing ideas, her brilliant ideas.
I could see that.
And so I liked Blair always pushing herself and always reground. She almost always reset herself. Like if she had something happen, she'd be like, you know what? And actually, she could probably be a motivational speaker in this day and age because she has so much self-confidence and at least on the surface, and it's this idea of so I think I related a lot to her where it's you have these bumps in the road, but it's just level set, reset yourself and be like, you know what, I look good. I'm healthy. I'm smart. I have good ideas. And sure, maybe she shouldn't have to be so vocal about her self-love.
Right.
But
Which
I think
I could say the same thing to you. Right.
But the self-love thing is important. And
It
I
is.
think even back then, you didn't see too many characters like that at that age.
Mm-hmm.
You saw them. Of course, sitcoms always had that obnoxious character. You didn't quite see them so young.
Right.
And I appreciated Blair. I actually thought she was very refreshing and hilarious. I mean, listen, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I do. I know she's obnoxious. I know she is. But I appreciated the essence of where it came from.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. And I really liked how she stood by her decisions too.
Oh, yeah.
She was, very confident in her decisions, and even if it wasn't popular, she was like, this is just how I am.
Yeah.
This is who I am. This is,
Yeah,
what I do.
Yeah, she did. And she was very unapologetic about her, like, and even when, like, say she had misunderstandings with people, she would say sorry, but it was
kind of the way you say sorry.
you know what, Christina? It's like, I am sorry.
I am sorry you don't
feel
see
that's right.
the way I see.
I'm sorry you feel that way. Or I'm sorry you felt that way about what I said. It was like, so it's these very, which are very contemporary, actually. They're very housewivesy. Like, it's like, I'm apologizing to you because you're a wimp.
Which,
right? Like that's what she's basically saying.
yes,
because
and
you can't handle
it's
me.
funny that you even say that, because Kim Fields was eventually a housewife.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that part of
Isn't
her
that
life.
funny?
Yeah.
I never saw that episode or show.
No.
Series, whatever. Seems, I don't know.
Oh, that's so
I'm just not
funny.
going to speak.
It'll make for a tough show. All right, so let's dive. Shallow dives only.
Shallow
let's dive right in.
dives only.
I hope people are sitting down. I hope if you're listening to this, I hope you're driving a long road trip. I have a weird amount to say because it did shake me from my then and now feelings. I'm going to say something right now.
Oh my gosh.
That may devastate listeners.
Let me sit down.
Christina, and you.
Go on, then.
Here we are. This, I think, was my favorite television revisit of this show, of Old Romance. I can't deny it.
Wow.
That's
a strong statement.
It is. We've done a lot of these. And
We've done Three's Company.
Well,
we've done Cheers.
Yeah.
Family Ties.
Yeah. Sex and the City.
Sex and the City.
I mean, there's been quite some.
Excuse me.
So
That's a strong statement.
It is. I just really
Why was it your favorite? Is it because of how you felt back then, coupled with how you felt now, or what do you think what do you think put this
here's
over the
why.
edge for you?
Because in my middle-agedness, this is a show that episode after episode, it was a fucking. Oh my God! I guess I'm really passionate with that.
You know what?
We have to stop. We'll make this like the bonus. I don't know why I'm swearing over effects.
Oh my God!
It is. It's about something.
Yes. Do you feel like
episode is about something? It's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're going there right now. It's the first fucking episode. Sorry, I'm like really upset about that.
Just drop the F. I mark these things explicit anyway. It's okay.
I know. We should.
Let the F bombs
The first
fly.
episode. Oh my God! It just starts right off like this girl who could be a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 1. Season 1.
Crazy.
I'm like, what the hell?
Crazy.
What am I
was
watching?
shocked because I remembered that episode.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was the first episode of the entire show.
I absolutely remember the girl in the baseball cap and the weirdness of that.
Mm-hmm. I remembered like that. The weirdness between her and Blair. Like I remember that conflict.
I remembered it too, but it didn't. But I would have been 7. I mean, so now being older, it's like, oh, they really this show consistently tried to be about something about young female issues and challenges and situations, and it was on forever, but it didn't. Yeah. It was not really taken. Correct me if I'm wrong. If memory serves, this show is not taken seriously. It didn't get.
I don't feel like it was taken
I think it got like
seriously.
2 Emmy nominations in the entire.
I never looked any of that
I did,
up.
and it was like Mrs. Garrett. Charlotte Rae, we'll get into her. Charlotte Rae got 1 nomination, 1 season, and then I think maybe hairstyling. It was some like kind of lighter
some sort of
award. But like
But it definitely was not talked about in terms of the seriousness of.
There's a lot of
the topics that they tackled.
Topics in this, and you think about growing up later. It's like a lot of these shows would do these very special episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like
every one of them was a very special episode.
Facts of Life created the special episode because every episode was like, and they treated their characters with respect.
Mm-hmm.
And all this. So we'll get into this. Mostly. Well, no, most of the time. Well, even that episode, it didn't end the way I wanted it to end. Right?
I know.
I was surprised.
So let's,
Yes, I talked a lot. Go for it. What are your initial...
So I think, I agree with you. I'm not saying it's my favorite revisit. I really, I think if I had to choose one, I would say Cheers is my favorite revisit. But I enjoyed it, and I think part of it is because I was so... surprised. I think I had lower expectations going in.
Same.
Like, oh, it's the Facts of Life, just a fun little show
That's
about
right.
a couple of girls or whatever. And when I started watching it, especially when we got into season 2,
mm-hmm.
I was so surprised at the meat of it. And I think that that's what was making it so enjoyable for me. It wasn't as, like, fluffy as I'd expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that first episode. It was handled much differently than it would have today.
Right. The way it was lining, absolutely. Because
right?
the way it was shaping up, you're like, oh, they're really going all in on this.
Right. And so for the listeners, the episode was about a tomboy,
mm-hmm.
one of the girls. I forget her name. Did I put her name down? I forget.
Cindy.
Is it Cindy? Oh, yeah. Cindy. So she's Cindy, and she has the baseball cap, and she's a tomboy. And then Blair makes some comments about her basically being a boy or wanting to be a boy.
And the touching, she says, all the touching and the hugging and the I love yous,
mm-hmm.
it's weird.
Mm-hmm. It's not normal.
It's not
Again
normal.
With the normal
That's
stuff.
the Three's Company thing, too.
So crazy
Yeah.
how often that was thrown in there. So, but
Blair calls her out on her behavior because she's very touchy-feel with the other girls. But the other girls were not saying no, by the way. I mean, it wasn't creepy. She was
a creepy thing.
She was a huggy, loving character.
A hugger. She was a hugger.
But she wore a baseball cap and she wore boys' clothes. And Blair kind of called her out on all this, but in front of pretty much everyone.
In front of everyone.
And the word strange kept being floated around. Mrs. Garrett was picking up on this sort of bullying,
mm-hmm.
I guess. And the girl really, when Mrs. Garrett talked to her about it, the tomboy was kind of unsure of herself, right?
Yes.
She said, I don't
She's
feel
like,
that way
maybe,
about boys. Right.
Yeah, maybe I am. And did they even
Maybe
say the word
strange.
gay?
Nope.
They never
they
said
did not say gay,
the
they
word
did not say lesbian.
gay.
No.
So not quite as cutting edge as we would like it to be. But
maybe they
couldn't. They probably never have used that word.
These are young girls.
Right?
They're minors.
Right.
Yeah.
So
They
very
don't
strange.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to me that it wasn't even a consideration of Mrs. Garrett when she's talking to her that she might be gay.
Yeah.
It was never even a consideration. It was more like, someday you'll feel that way.
I wrote that down.
Someday you will.
Give yourself time.
Mm-hmm.
Someday, it was like someday you'll like boys.
Right. Yeah. So
I was like, oh shit! It was so lining up for a very, very different thing, and I didn't expect that.
Yes, definitely a then and now.
Which brings me to, since we're shallow diving.
Yeah.
Mrs. Garrett gives some bad advice.
Oh my god! Oh my gosh!
And over again.
Worst advice. But even actually in that episode, how about how brutal she was to Blair? So she's trying to teach her a lesson about making assumptions. And she's basically saying, you're a slut. Like, yeah, but you do these things with those boys. It was brutal.
Yeah.
And Blair's like, well, no, I mean, I'm not, I don't really do
off,
that. And she's like, oh, come
it.
on. We all know you do. I'm like, whoa.
It was an interesting tactic.
It was a very interesting tactic.
I don't know if it completely paralleled to what they were talking about with the tomboy. No. Mrs. Garrett, we'll touch on this, I'm sure, throughout this episode. A lot of bad advice. Blair realizes her mom's having an affair,
mm-hmm.
right, with a married man, and God forbid wants to, get angry at her mother. And Mrs. Garrett says, Don't judge your mother, Blair. She's just a woman living her life. Don't judge her. Let her do what she wants.
Crazy.
Like, excuse me, no.
Yeah.
Like, no. You see your mom walking down a path of self-destruction. Maybe say something. Maybe say, Ma, you sure about this, Ma? Like, you don't just be like, oh, Mom, you're having an affair with a married man. Great.
Awesome. Yeah.
Like, that's so ridiculous.
Let's just pretend I didn't see it. That's probably better.
Yeah, bad advice. The other thing, which was shocking, this is all season 1.
Yeah.
Mrs. Garrett's ex-husband comes to visit.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel like he was a little out of her league?
Oh!
I'm like, really?
Well, who was it? First of all, he walks in and the crowd went wild. Was it Fernando Lamas? No,
he was somebody. I didn't look him. I didn't do any research on this. But no, that was my first thought. Was like, wow, he's like really out of her league. Like she looked like. Well,
remember the baggage that he comes with.
Right.
He is penniless, a drifter.
Right.
And he doesn't, I mean, he's comes and goes with the wind.
Right. Yet.
So who cares how cute he is?
No time for Mrs. Garrett to
literally
consider. It was like within a day.
Yeah.
To consider going back to him. Like he asks.
Literally falls in her arms. She falls in his arms. Yeah.
He asks her to marry him again. Yeah. And she's just like,
Which we are
she
jumping.
Was almost going to
100%, Christina. Which brings us, I think, to something that we've said in this show before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like when new shows, season 1, when they contemplate the idea of the main character moving away. I'm like, you just started the show.
We all know
You're
it's
not going
happening
anywhere. You're not moving away. You're not getting married. And actually, one of my favorite shows, The Golden Girls, that's episode 1.
Yeah.
Remember Blanche is going to get married and move away? It's like, that it doesn't, like, why waste your energy?
Right.
Like,
no, you're not fooling
a plot
anyone.
Device. I mean, whatever.
You're not fooling anyone.
Yeah. So, anyway, the tomboy thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I did...
Yeah, she made a lot of bad. She gave a lot of bad advice. The other part about her too is I didn't feel like she was a great role model, and I say that because she was so self-deprecating, and she was constantly
she was
talking about her body.
Yeah, she
her
was.
Big butt.
Yeah,
like constantly. That's one of my biggest critiques of the season 1. It wasn't just her, but there was so much humor based on body parts.
Mm-hmm.
There were lots of talk, lots of funny, like, ha-ha jokes with, like, Mr. Bradley, who, I'm sorry, creepy. I felt he was very creepy.
He was the
John Lawler,
the male headmaster.
The headmaster in season 1.
Yeah.
He, I mean, there were a lot of, like, these little gags like, oh, girls, go on upstairs and get undressed. And they're like, oh, wait, I mean, get, take your clothes off. Oops. I mean, like really creepy,
so
like sort of pseudo-sexual kind of references in that in season 1. I didn't notice it much in season 2, and we watched those few episodes.
Was he? I don't think he's even in it.
He's not. No. I mean, like the jokes. I mean, like that type of.
Sure. But, Christina, remember what happens in Season 2, Episode 1.
She lost weight.
Yeah. Mrs. Garrett walks in.
She looked great.
She looked amazing.
Yeah.
But I wonder you wonder, and I don't know, again, I have no trivia on this, but you wonder if the producers or the whatevers of Facts Off was like, either I wonder if she got hurt by the jokes,
mm-hmm.
if Charlotte Rae got hurt by the jokes and decided to go on a diet before Season 2, or the producers like, so we're kind of thinking of that Mrs. Garrett could be a little more, I don't know. More of is that more of a role model to be thin? It's weird.
Well, she wasn't thin.
No, she wasn't.
Let's not go crazy.
Oh, my God.
I just felt like, so obviously there was a huge revamp of this
season 2.
Show. It was glaring. Not just the new girl or whatever. There was a huge revamp of this whole show. The whole structure of it was changed. I don't know if there were new writers or what, but they must have received some sort of a feedback to make such a change. How could they just make a change like that? If it's a successful first season, they're not going to change that formula.
Well, I think it did fine season 1. I did fine. I looked up some basics, mm-hmm. and it was never a hit. The show was I think only appeared in the top 20 once in the entire.
Wow,
yeah.
that's surprising.
But I think because it was consistent, like it was consistently fine, but never a hit, never a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it did enough where it was like NBC kept bringing it back and bringing it back. I don't know the reason. I mean, I think there are just too many cast members.
There was a lot going on. There were too many cast members.
Yeah.
There was too much dialogue. That's one of my notes in season 1. There was too much. Like they would just constantly talking.
Yeah.
Which I'm very happy with the changes that they made for sure. They what was I going to say? But yeah, with like the physical jokes, I feel like they were not in season.
No, because they got rid of the male energy.
They got rid of that. But they also, I mean, it wasn't even just him. Mrs. Garrett was constantly talking about her own body.
Yeah.
There were lots of like little references. And they had those really short shorts. Did you notice that? Did you write that down?
One moment, please. No, keep talking. Look at this.
What does it say? Blair's shorts are shorts.
With short. I crossed out the other S. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it was like exclamation point underlined. Yeah, she has some really short shorts.
Look what I wrote. Can you read that?
Shorts are uncomfortably short.
Yeah, maybe a little uncomfortable.
Also,
and it wasn't just Blair. It was like all of them.
Well, I read the second sentence too, and I had that note too. I don't think Blair would wear those shorts. I don't think that character would wear those shorts.
No.
Those, like, Blair's whole confidence does not come from her legs or her ass or her body. No. It's like she talks about her hair and whatever, her beauty overall, but she doesn't, like, hair is very different. Also, that school wouldn't, I don't think that school would even allow it even behind closed doors.
No, I don't think so either. Blair was more about labels. Like she would not wear like these cheap shorts. That's right. She would wear, Halston.
That's right.
Yeah. Underneath that, I actually wrote just that clothes were inconsistent. So there's long sleeves with shorts. There's some long sleeves, some short sleeves. You don't know what season it is. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And there were hardly any uniforms in season 1. It was mostly, Molly was in the uniform almost every scene.
Yeah.
But mostly it was just casual attire in that first scene, in the first season. And that could be because of the switch that they made where they weren't living in that house anymore. They were living in Mrs. above the kitchen or something. Like, I don't know where it was. In the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Where they're working, so it makes sense that they would be in their uniforms more because they're like basically at a job.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was very different. Very different.
Because it also leads with the costumes or the lack of costumes to some odd things too. And you mentioned the body, the physical humor, and I just have in my notes the go away hips. Do you remember the girl? So the scene, there's this young girl. I don't remember her name. She didn't make the cut for season 2. At one point, they are talking. The premise is what? It's another issue episode.
Was it I'm leaving Eastland?
It was Blair's mom, because Molly says, "Okay, Blair's mom sure lets her body talk." So at one point, I guess they're getting ready for something, and this girl is laying on the floor. This young girl going, "Go away, hips," and she's like,
she's trying to put her jeans on, maybe.
No. She was doing like these like weird setups, like kind of like ab workout.
I mean, a lot of talk about body.
It's like, you're talking about your hips, like, girl, you're like, what, 12?
You're 12 years old.
Oh, that bothered me.
Yeah, that whole running joke of the body.
And I'm not saying it doesn't happen. We all know that, girls and boys of all ages have body issues, but I didn't like seeing her writhing on the floor.
Yeah.
Like,
I never did that.
Go away, hips.
Listeners, if you did that, I apologize, but I don't know of anybody that did that.
I did say, so if we're going to talk about lines and humor, I did write season 1, episode 2, Blair's Mom Has the Affair. That had some very humorous lines, but the audience wasn't laughing.
Yeah, I wrote that too. I didn't write that. I wrote a lot of the jokes fall flat.
With the audience or with you?
With the audience.
With the audience,
with
yeah.
the
'Cause I was
audience.
like, that's not a bad joke. Of course, I didn't write any of them down. Because episode 1, the very first episode, Mrs. Garrett has some rough jokes. At one point, she says, okay, I wrote Mrs. Garrett's rough one-liners. Pigs can't drive a stick shift. It was because they were, I'm trying to think of the context of that, but it was so, like, lame. It was so rough. Like, it was like, I don't know if that's even a Mrs. Garrett joke.
Yeah, some of the jokes were a little bit strange. I think she must have had a lot to say about the season 2 because her character was very different in season 2.
She was. Because she was all, remember how flighty and flaky in season 1?
And loud.
I wrote spastic twice. Spastic, loud. Mrs. Garrett is spastic.
She is. Like, crazy. But yeah, I agree. I thought that the jokes fell flat. You were going to say something about Mr. Garrett in episode 3.
Yeah, so he comes back to, like, win her back. And he is, again, a gambler, a penniless gambler. And he has, like, I guess, lost all his money, allegedly, you know. But there's a subplot where Tootie is a bit fascinated by him for quite unknown reasons. But he teaches Tootie how to play cards. And I think he says, and you could play for popsicle sticks or candy bars or whatever. Like, he doesn't say play for money. He said he played for money. Meaning it was not so evil.
I didn't think it was that bad either.
I didn't think it was that bad. He was teaching her a card game. Kids play cards.
Right.
It's so weird. Mrs. Garrett gets so bent out of shape about it. And I was like, I don't know. And she tried to spin it into something much darker. Like, you taught the girls about gambling, and gambling is bad. And then she even said, like, no more games, girls. And it's like, wait, no more games?
Yeah.
That's a bit
it was
extreme.
A little over the top.
Once again, Mrs. Garrett is bad with the advice.
Yeah, yes.
Just say, you cannot play for money. You can play for, play for chips. Play for candy,
right.
M&Ms. Like,
I don't
whatever.
know.
I don't know. I just thought it was a
could be a slippery slope, I suppose.
I don't know about that. It was an overreaction. Or don't play for winnings. Just
and
they
were playing for money. He suggested playing for popsicle sticks, but they did end up playing for money because they're going to her for, like, an advance or whatever it is.
I guess all the kids have allowances and all that.
Did you find it weird in the first season? And then we're talking a lot about the first season. We can move faster, I suppose. But did you feel like it was weird how they panned across the girls when a new character, like, say, Mr. Garrett comes in and they pan across, like, usually they're, like, all sitting on a couch.
Yeah.
And the camera pans across and they introduce themselves. Like, Natalie. Hi. That's Molly. Hi. And it just goes from one child to another, to another, to another. And they did that several times in season 1.
Because there were a lot of characters. It was like reinforcement of, like, who's who.
Yeah.
I wrote down one joke in episode 3, when the ex-husband comes to visit. Someone says, I think it might be Blair. She's complaining about, like, how the school's getting a little, like, shoddy and run down. And she's like, Mrs. Garrett, come on. There's still biology class is still using last year's frogs. I laugh. I don't know why I found that funny, but I did.
But, like, it's almost like the audience didn't get it or something.
No, the audience is not into this.
They were not.
Very reserved laughter.
Another note I had when they were they were saying there was the IQ episode, and the girls are like, I'm leaving Eastland, and I'm thinking, is it your choice? Do you need to talk to Mom about this?
Right.
Since they're paying your way? I thought that was kind of odd. That was, like, actually an actual thing that they were saying they were going to do.
Fast forward to season 2, Joe is going to do the same thing. These kids are making their decisions. Yet Tootie's dad rules her life. It's very strange.
I also felt like, and I felt this way back then too, the age discrepancy is kind of strange. Where Tootie is so much younger, clearly so much younger. Her and Natalie, maybe. Natalie, it seems like maybe a year older, but Tootie's so little.
Yeah.
And, like, Blair is
seems like
17.
A woman. But I also think like the makeup. I think the makeup.
But clearly they're older. Like she's not the same age.
I don't know if Blair's 17. She's like you said, yeah, maybe 16. I guess.
Whatever.
Yeah,
but
16,
they're not the same age. So
No,
I thought it was
that's
kind
true.
of
Right.
strange that they didn't really address that at all. Like they didn't talk about different classes.
I see. Shit, I feel like I read this. That Natalie. Oh my God, what is her name? Jesus. Green.
Mindy Cohn.
Mindy Cohn. Yeah, Natalie Green. Mindy Cohn. Yeah, is the same age. Mindy Cohn is the same age as Nancy McKeon.
Interesting.
Yeah. The IQ test has some funny dialogue. Again, but another moment where Mrs. Garrett exercises poor judgment. She blames Mr. Bradley for all of it. It's like, did you forget where Tootie stole the shit and then read it to all the girls? Like, Mr.
And she
Bradley...
just had to write it on the board, like, I will not, whatever. Or is that a different episode?
No, that's the same episode.
Yeah. But, I mean, that was like her, like, punishment.
No, but isn't the problem Mrs. Garrett? Control Tootie.
Yeah.
And Mr. Bradley is supposed to charge the school. Mrs. Garrett is in charge of the girls. So Mrs. Garrett is responsible for Tootie grabbing that piece of paper and running wild with it.
Yes, but I do think that her problem with... I know, right? I'm sorry. I don't
Do not
dare.
do this,
I mean,
Christina.
I know how passionate you are about this show.
Oh, the facts of life.
I'm a little bit nervous to disagree, but I think Mrs. Garrett's problem was the IQ test as a whole. Like that was what her issue was. Like they shouldn't be having these IQ tests, and I think that's why. And Mr. Bradley was defending it, saying, "Oh, this is necessary," and she was saying, "No, it's not." And that's why she had like a problem with Mr. Bradley, and that's why they did that stupid IQ test together. Which, by the way, why are the chairs so small?
Yeah,
it's not an elementary
super
school.
weird.
Like
Yeah,
they're all basically the same size.
That was the big joke too. It's like Mr. Bradley trying to fit into one of those chairs. I wrote painful emotions, because I guess the girls were really upset about this stuff, and although it led to some very funny parts when I think it's Molly comes over and she's like, "Oh, don't be sad just because you're the dumbest girl in school."
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then
there was some brutal, funny,
and then the
brutal
smart
jokes.
girl was like, she was trying to like, she thought she was the smartest, and she says something like, "Tootie, don't be mad just because I'm smarter than you." And she goes, "Oh no, it's not that. It's like," she says, "You're not the smartest." And oh my God, it was a beautiful thing. And then Mr. Bradley is explaining the importance of IQ tests at the end, and he stops and says, "I'm not going too fast for you, am I, Sue?"
Oh my gosh, that was so funny.
Because she's the dumbest. But even that was a special episode,
right?
Because it was about testing, and that your test can affect your
performance,
but also your self-worth.
Your self-worth. Yes,
that's what their self-worth.
You're absolutely right.
It's like you saw this number and suddenly you felt very differently about yourself, and they tried to spin it into this emotional sort of storyline. But that's what I mean. The show. So that's all of season 1. But it was very, each one was about something. Yeah. And it wasn't like, I don't know. I felt all these episodes had a bit of weight. Should we dive into season 2?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anything else.
And episode 5 was just Tootie's dad. I thought it was serious because of his like strict parenting and didn't want Tootie really having friends. That didn't get racist, right?
No,
but
it does. In
season 2,
it does. But
yeah.
No, this was more about just wanting to be successful,
right?
And he didn't like the direction in which,
because she wanted to be a
dress designer
or
something in the arts.
Yeah.
God forbid. So we can dive in. I mean, my last note about episode 5 was just about still lots of sex jokes, and I felt it was a little bit uncomfortable having teenagers and younger joke about sex. It was just like an uncomfortable situation.
Well,
and then again with the intros, they had to do the intros again. Like almost every episode had like this whole intro of the characters. And I will say, so Molly is played by Molly Ringwald.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if everybody remembers that, but
Yeah.
that is Molly Ringwald. And maybe it's because of who she is now. I was expecting a little more, but she wasn't that good. And there were many times where she was actually reading cue cards while she was saying her lines.
1,000,000%.
Right?
That's a note I have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which someone in this world, whoever discovered the second edition of Molly Ringwald, God bless you, because holy crap,
Yeah,
is she
was
bad
bad.
in this?
She was terrible.
She was terrible.
She was blatantly reading a cue
Cue
card.
card. It's so obvious.
So obvious.
I don't know
And-
her story. I don't know Molly Ringwald's background.
I'm not really
I don't
sure
know
either.
how she survived season 1 of this show
I
because
know.
she's that bad.
And she's the one character
they bring
that
back
they
for
bring
season
back
2.
into season 2. Like, who did she know?
To your point, I will say she's an amazing actress
Mm-hmm.
now, and in the late 80s, this is say not even 10 years later, she must have got some serious acting
Yes.
classes or
Yeah.
skills because it's not represented here.
Not
right?
at all.
This was a rough performance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. But yeah, and
So
even when
funny.
they did bring her back, she wasn't good in that. But
No.
season 2 was like, what?
So flat.
So I'm telling you, that second edition of Molly Ringwald that reintroduced her in the late 80s or mid 80s, hats off to you because I don't know how you saw that star quality then.
Right. It wasn't through the
Is that
facts of
mean?
life.
Is this mean?
Sorry, Molly, if you're listening.
Sorry, Molly.
We love you now.
We loved you in the,
We loved you in the 80s.
85 to yeah. But
Wait, did we have nice things to say about her?
no, we
Pretty in
did.
Pink?
No, Pretty in Pink we did. No, we
Okay,
did.
good.
She had a lot of good
Yes.
moments in that. So
So season 2,
yeah.
the new girl. You can tell right away the production, like quality,
Everything's ramped up.
is
it looks
ramped
great.
up. I
Yeah.
don't know what they did, but they had a big brainstorming session over the summer in between these 2 seasons, and it is like a brand new show.
The show is like truly brighter. The
Mm-hmm.
lighting is better. Blair looks younger.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Like they figured things out.
great.
They iced
Tootie
out half the cast.
they iced. Nobody really made it. There was, the 4 of them really. Just Mrs. Garrett, Blair, Tootie, and Natalie
you know
were
what
the only ones that survived.
And you know what I read is that when the 4 or the 3, Blair, Tootie, and Natalie came back, they didn't know the others were not.
Really?
Yeah. They were told, where did I read this? That like, they'll be coming and going. They'll be like, in for, but it never,
never
really
happened.
No.
Yeah, just that
'Cause
one Molly. I don't know.
They were afraid to. I think they were afraid to affect morale.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah. I completely understand that. But no, it looks great. I mean, like we said before, like Mrs. Garrett looked great. And it was so refreshing to see Jo. Like, I had missed her in that first season. And I don't know, maybe I think she might be my favorite character.
That's okay.
Yeah. Nancy McKeon, I thought she was really good in some of it.
Oh.
Like, I think at the beginning, like, they wrote her really, really, really hard. And so she was always had that scowl on her face, and she didn't have a lot of range. But as the episodes moved on and she became a little bit more in depth, she was good. Her emotional scenes were off the chart.
Wrenching.
Christina,
I got misty.
I got misty
got
too.
misty.
I got
When she's
tears in
talking
my
about
eyes.
her mom.
Oh my gosh!
God.
And that was just the first episode,
Oh my
I think,
God.
right?
Christina, that was her
She
first.
had tears in her eyes. I mean, it was
It
great.
felt so. I'm getting goosebumps right now. It felt so real.
So
And I was like,
real.
what am I watching right now? It transcended like the sitcom-y, shticky thing. And I was like, oh my God, she's amazing.
She
in
was
this scene
so,
right
so
now.
good.
Yeah, it really stopped me. So I was like just kind of like watching. I was like, oh, she has some real acting.
Yeah, she was
chops.
no Molly Ringwald. No, but it really did. It brought a tear to my eye, and it happened several times.
Yeah.
In this season, in the 5 episodes that we watched.
But seriously, Nancy McKeon, truly, if you can find this, again, local library. That's how we got these. But very easy to find. At the
Really
local
easy to
library.
find, yeah.
And but watch that. Season 2, episode 1. Nancy McKeon she's quite good in this.
I didn't look up to see if she had again, I didn't do any research on this at all.
Much.
I'm wondering if this was her first
I don't
acting
know.
gig. So her brother, Philip McKeon,
was on
Alice,
yeah.
which I believe was before this. I feel like it was older than this.
He died last year, right?
I heard,
some months ago. Yeah.
Really sad. So she might have had other acting gigs as a sister or something. I mean, obviously the family knew the business, so I wouldn't be surprised if she did have some more experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was refreshing to see that level of acting.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. But true to form, Mrs. Garrett just reclaims the throne of the worst fucking advice giver when she tells Blair everything about Joe. Like, why would you ever tell someone's bully? Like, and I mean, it's like, Blair, I know you hate Joe, but you have to understand her mother, it's like, is a mess. And it's like, I guess her mom got divorced, which I guess is a big deal. And then her mom is
she's a cocktail waitress.
Yeah, which is, I guess, also a bad thing. I don't know. But it was like this weird thing. And Blair's like, oh, I didn't realize Mrs. Garrett. It's like, is that really?
And then she's like, awesome. I have some information.
Some ammo. But Mrs. Garrett she was consistently
There's got to be some sort of rule not to like divulge this kind of information.
It is she's telling Blair the most confidential, private shit about Joe that Joe would never want out there. Why, Mrs. Garrett, are you doing this?
Crazy. I did like how I had forgotten how they ended up just the four of them and how the story changed. I forgot all about that. And I was happy to see that there was actually a storyline in place that explained why it was just the four of them all living together in a room. You know what I mean?
With exactly the same schedule. And
right. I was very happy to realize, oh, that's right. There was a reason for it. They now have jobs and and this is their punishment for the next, 10 years, apparently. And then that, Mr. Bradley was gone and the other woman was gone.
Yeah.
So it was great to see that there was actually a story in place for that.
Yeah, if we dig too deep, and we won't, but I wondered, would the parents, would Tootie's dad be okay with that?
Well, she said that she called them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No, that's the point, because she's like, I called all your parents. They know. They're aware of it, and they're good with it.
And he was, you're right. So Tootie's father was so strict in the first season.
Yeah.
And now, maybe he appreciated the strictness.
The strictness,
I don't know.
Yeah. So part 2 of that episode, they get arrested, which is pretty funny. And Tootie actually brings up when she's in jail. And I think this might be, from the episodes that I watched, I think this is the first ID or identification sort of knock that Tootie is singling herself out as the black one. Because she says, oh, great. Yeah, you're going to call my dad and he's going to come down here. My parents are going to look at me and they're going to go, that little black kid, she ain't ours. And the crowd went wild. The audience was much more invested this season.
Absolutely.
Right? They laughed at a lot of stuff. But but I think that was the first sort of inkling that Tootie's, they're giving Tootie this self-awareness.
Yes.
That actually is really I think it's empowers
I thought it was great.
Yeah,
they're not shying away from it. They're saying, okay, yes, here she is.
And I think maybe that was a note. I mean, because there's really no, not that there should, and I don't know if they're even, I don't know what the right answer is, especially certainly not in 1980.
Right.
But I liked that the show chose to give her some lines that were her realizing her blackness, if we want to call it that, because it happens later on in a different episode too. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, in her defense, how much of a character building can you do on roller skates?
Yeah.
She was on roller skates the entire season 1.
Oh, season 1, right, yeah.
You know why?
Because she was too short.
She was too short. So they let's put her in roller skates in every single scene.
Oh, my God.
That must have been tough for Kim Fields.
Yeah.
But she was pretty professional.
She was good. She was cute.
Yeah. She was good. She obviously had a lot of, she had great timing. Yeah. Natalie had great timing.
The two of them together.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt in my mind are they best friends, right? Like, you felt their friendship, and they just adored each other.
Yeah, they
that was
were
really
great.
Sweet to see.
I really liked them, and I thought they had probably the best timing out of everybody.
Natalie, holy shit, Mindy Cohn.
She's good.
I don't know why. I mean, so that's interesting, right? Like, we lose Mindy Cohn for some reason, but we get Molly Ringwald back. Like, how does
Why
that
did
happen?
we wait?
You know what I mean? No, meaning like in the world of pop culture.
Oh, I'm like, okay, yeah.
Sorry, I should have specified. But
yeah, just probably a better
so
agent.
Funny, I know, but she's a I'm saying
natural,
it as like she's a natural.
She is a natural.
Mindy Cohn was a natural. So funny. There's a scene where, and Carl was watching this episode with me, where season 2, the first episode, part 2, she. They're told they have to wash dishes, but they were trying to hire a dishwasher before. So the kid walks in. Mm-hmm. He's like, "Oh, I heard you guys looking for a dishwasher," and Natalie's like instantly smitten. And this, by the way, this scene is 8 seconds long. And she runs over and she's like, "We are," and then someone yells out, "The position's been filled. Sorry, dude, whatever." And he just like turns around and walks away.
Yeah.
And Natalie turns and she goes, "He's gone." But he was there for 4 seconds. It was like bloop, bloop.
She was great.
She
had excellent timing.
Is so
the inflections,
damn good.
Everything. Really good. I'm wondering if we should just take a little break.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we've talked a lot.
Yeah.
And I need to have a sip.
Yeah. And we need to go through our remaining notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll be right back.
With Facts of Life.
Hey there, it's Brian and Christina. We just wanted to take this break to thank you for listening to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pulp culture through a middle-aged lens. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And give us a rating or review while you're there.
If you have any questions, comments, or observations, shoot us an email at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Old Roommates. Thanks for listening, and now, back to the show.
And we're back.
I was going to say, I do have a question when we get to that part.
Okay.
And we're back talking about the Facts of Life seasons 1 and 2. We've now focused on season 2. Mm-hmm. I have said I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
If I remember correctly, you said you fucking loved it, I think. You were just dropping the F-bombs all over the place today.
I just love that it was about something.
Yeah.
Not to rehash everything.
It really was
so
great.
Good.
It really
was
great.
So we have a few more thoughts before we get to our questions.
Excuse me.
Someone who I am so glad that of where we stopped at season 2, mm-hmm. because I believe season 5 is we meet on season 2, episode 5. We meet cousin Jerry.
Yes, I was so happy. I thought she was introduced further in the series.
Same.
So I was really happy too. I'm like, wow, this is great.
This is so important because, so for anyone of a certain age, cousin Jerry was Blair's disabled, mentally. No, how would you say? Like, how would you say?
Well, the way
that
she
then?
said,
well, she has cerebral.
She has cerebral palsy. And the way Jerry described herself was that she was handicapped.
Handicapped, yeah.
Which is so surprising. Like,
yeah.
I was surprised to hear her say that word, because these days you really don't say that word.
Yeah. What did I just say earlier? She's not mentally anything.
You were like mentally something.
She's not mentally something.
I don't know. I didn't let you finish.
Sorry about that. So, I couldn't. It's getting all confused. My PC.
So yes, let's talk about that episode, because I thought that was a really good episode.
I remember this episode like it was yesterday.
Wow. When did you watch it?
Yesterday. No, it was the first time. No, like when I was young, mm-hmm. because Jerry. I mean, I think this is true, at least for me in my mm-hmm. reality. She was the first person with cerebral palsy that I've ever seen.
Same.
And to be, say, 7 years old or 8 years old, probably 8 or 9 years old at this time, they brought her in, and she is a successful comedian. Like, even in the show.
And she's funny. Yeah.
And she's genuinely funny. And Blair is uncomfortable with her arrival. She's surprising Blair, and I relate to Blair because I hate surprises. And but she and you think the reason Blair is uncomfortable is because
she's
cousin
embarrassed.
Jerry is right because she's embarrassed cousin Jerry because her movements can be a bit awkward.
She's different.
She's different, and so you think that's really the reason, and you should
and
talk.
I remembered it as being that, so I was surprised.
Same, and I actually kind of think it would have been a stronger episode. I think that's more relatable. Because what you find out through a conversation with good old Mrs. G, filled with the good advice, is that Blair's not embarrassed by Jerry's cerebral palsy. She is just that Jerry gets all the attention.
So she's jealous. I have to disagree with you. I think it was great the way they did it because the whole episode is really focusing on normalizing, if we want to use that word, someone with cerebral palsy and not making them seem so different and, not as scary or whatever it is that you would
This is kind
relate.
of, I think I'm going to safely call this groundbreaking.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh, in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been the easy way out for these writers to say, oh, well, she's uncomfortable, she's embarrassed, blah, 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 blah. But by doing it the other way and saying, no, I'm not embarrassed. I'm basically just jealous because she gets all the attention. It's supposed to be my day, and she's going to take all my attention away. By doing it that way, it really reiterates the normalcy of it. It really, puts
true.
that into perspective
it's
for everyone. My gosh, I was almost embarrassed by thinking, oh my gosh, you're right. She wouldn't be embarrassed because she's been
used to it.
She's her cousin, and she wouldn't be embarrassed by that.
No, that's true.
So it was.
Yeah, that's good. You know what, Christina, you're right.
Thank you. Finally,
you love this part.
I really
parts
do.
Of these episodes.
I'm going to splice together all of the times you're right.
You are right. I am proud enough to say you're right, Christina. Okay. Blair Warner has taught me anything.
But it was great.
No, but there's the line that resonates with me about that and is just lightly touched upon is when Blair says, Mrs. Garrett, I will, plan this whole thing, blah, 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 blah. And Jerry will pour coffee in a cup without spilling it. And my family stands up and applauds. And that was compelling to me. That it's everyone's frame of reference, everyone's abilities are different. And that might hurt.
That was a great line.
Yeah. And that might hurt someone's feelings to be like, oh, so the expectations are changed for people who have different abilities. Right. And I think to be younger, to have to grasp that is very layered on top of the fact that Jerry has cerebral palsy. So it is a very interesting episode. And I remembered it most of it so vividly because it was I felt uncomfortable watching Cousin Jerry because I'd never seen someone like that before. Right.
And it was great. She had a lot of lines in here that were funny and great. Yeah. What did I wrote? I just thought I did write, it was a great storyline. It was a really brave move on their part to bring her in. But it just coincided with all these other special episodes. So it wasn't unusual. I just thought it was really great. There were some exaggerated responses, I thought, to this cerebral palsy. I keep saying it wrong. Cerebral palsy? Cerebral palsy?
I say cerebral, but it's probably cerebral.
But I liked how they did it. So it was exaggerated responses, but I felt like it was probably necessary to bring it out of the audience. That's where I think they were trying to relate to the audience. Tootie's response and all the questions she had, all these weird, uncomfortable questions that I would like to know, but I would never ask. Yeah. But Tootie will. So I thought
it feels true to her character.
Yeah, really well done. And then someone was saying, so somebody said, don't ask the questions. And then Jerry said something like, did I write it down? Well, I did say, she did write, I wrote this. She said, handicapped, hey, you can say the word. It's all right. She said that.
Okay.
But to my point from before, she said something like, you don't want, not asking questions, something to do with it's okay to ask questions.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather you ask questions than, make assumptions or whatever.
Yeah.
And that, it was some sort of
Something
that.
like that,
I think the audience applauded after that, actually. But
Brilliant episode.
it was great.
Yep.
It was great. But it was actually, you know what's so funny? So this is why I was like really surprised about the twist, about her being jealous. I wrote down in quotes from Mrs. Garrett, a quote, I think she's embarrassed by Jerry's handicap. And I wrote underneath, seriously, Mrs. Garrett? Really?
Well, to your earlier point, they had to establish the wrong
Right. Exactly.
discomfort, right? They had to establish the wrong problem. So Mrs. Garrett had to spell it out. So then the
Yeah.
whole audience is on board, like, no duh. But then guess what? Blair has a surprise. She's not embarrassed at all.
Joke's on you.
She's jealous.
You ignorant people.
So here we go with Tootie's. Do we want to quickly
let's talk about that. I know it's going long, but it's okay. I think this is a good.
This is important
They're
because
okay.
here's what happens. Because you have this show, and only the episodes we've watched, by the way, adultery, sexuality, sexual assault
Yep.
on the golf course,
Yep.
gambling, interracial relationships, class, like money,
Sure.
class,
You don't have to explain to me what class is, Brian.
Are you sure?
You're so
Class
Blair.
Class has different
You are
meanings.
so Blair.
Class has
Hey, maybe
different
that's why it
meanings.
works,
Christina-
because I'm like Joe and you're like Blair, right?
Oh my gosh. So then we get to Tootie.
Mm-hmm.
And Tootie is scheduled to go on a dance, and her dance partner is white. This is a non-issue. They
Right.
did really well last time, and they want to recapture their dancing magic. There is nothing romantically going on
Lots of
between them.
dancing magic on that little routine.
Dancing magic,
by the way.
yeah. Quite something.
What a routine. Dancing with the Stars has nothing on those two. Anyway.
So Blair, I think this, I wrote it down, this is the first time I've heard Blair say brilliant idea, which is her catchphrase for many years to come. So then Tootie meets a young black gentleman who's filling the soda machine.
Yep. And Mrs. Garrett has no problem with leaving the two of them alone one episode after Joe gets assaulted. But it's fine. She never even met this kid, and she's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go in the other room then. That was interesting.
Well, Mrs. Garrett. Oh, God, Mrs. Garrett.
Mrs. Garrett.
So, and it's funny because I think back then, I think I really trusted Mrs. Garrett. Mm-hmm. And I hope I didn't take any of her notes because I would have made a lot of big mistakes in
Think
my
about
life.
the life choices
No,
you've
really,
made
because of Mrs. Garrett.
based on her advice.
Okay, so Tootie, this gentleman, this young guy, begins to fill Tootie's head with, hey, listen, you're hanging out with all these white women, but you're a sister, is what he says.
That's
you're
right.
a sister, and you should be hanging out with sisters. And she's like, no, I love my friends. And so somehow he gets
He puts
to her.
he puts these ideas in her head. And what I thought was really effective is, you see a little bit of it, and she's defending herself.
Yeah.
And then it's like the next scene, and she's a lot more fired up about it. And you find out that she's been having these conversations with this boy off screen.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was very effective.
Yeah.
Because you really don't know what was said and what really turned her around.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very effective. I'm glad that they had those conversations off screen.
Yeah. And I also appreciated the scene where she actually brings in some black friends.
Yes,
who
just trying to be friends because they're black.
Disinterested in having this kind of a conversation.
Yeah, and they didn't care at all. They're just like, whatever, this is just,
But Tootie, Kim Fields has some really amazing scenes in this.
She does.
Great lines. I love this, and this is very well written because there's some good lines. There's this balance of comedy and seriousness, but they play it really well. She's like, oh yeah, the 8 ball's black.
Oh, yeah.
And and then someone's like, it's just a little white lie. She's like, how come little lies are white? Oh my God. I was just laughing.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of them. And I kept laughing. I thought it was very funny. And then Tootie, so then the girls are like, Tootie, what's your... And they're giving her the hardest time. And I
Right.
loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
That felt real.
That
It's
did
like,
feel
Tootie,
real.
cut the shit. And Joe even was like, hey, knock it off. And like, I think she hits her in the arm. But there's a lot of good moments where it's like, that's real to me. That you would not tolerate that in a friend.
Right.
You're
friends.
The sudden, like, snap of your personality that suddenly you have to be this way.
Right.
So I love how giving her such a hard time. And
it was great.
A beautiful thing. But then finally, I think Tootie's like, I'm learning more things about myself. And Blair has this line. She's like, well, just do what I do. I say, I'm Blair Warner and you're not. Yeah. And then Tootie's like, no, I'm finding out who I am. And there's a pause and she goes, I'm black. And everyone busts out laughing. But it was a joke. It's meant to be funny. Right. And it's so damn funny. But they give her enough credit and respect that it's a storyline. They do it really well.
They do. It was a great episode. I felt like the episodes got stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
What was the other thing? Oh, and then even her speech to Mrs. Garrett, that was great. She had tears in her eyes.
Yeah.
Like, I was pretty impressed with the level of talent for these young children. And I think that she did have a lot more experience. She was on Good Times. She was Janet Jackson's friend.
Oh.
On Good Times.
Well, you know what's interesting about that in pop culture history?
What was that?
Who played Janet Jackson's mother on Good Times?
Winona.
The original abusive mother who burned her with the iron.
Oh, no. I don't know who that is.
It was Kim Field's mother.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
I forgot that Tootie was on Good Times. So Kim Field's mother played the abusive mother of Janet Jackson on Good Times.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And, Winona just passed away recently, too.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
I really liked her.
What do you say? Any final thoughts, Christina? Before we get to our questions.
Final thoughts. I just really enjoyed it. Will you watch more?
Well, here's the truth of the matter. If I could find it on TV organically, I would watch it under a blanket on a rainy Sunday and have a nice little cutesy time with myself drinking some tea. Okay,
that didn't sound right.
I'm setting the tone.
A cutesy time with myself.
What's wrong with having a cutesy time watching teenage girls?
Stop it. I think it's the with myself line that I had a problem with. With a bunch of girls.
A
bunch of teenage girls.
All I'm saying is I'm going to hang out under a blanket.
Stop it. You've said enough. You said enough.
All right, so let's get to our questions. All that to say, I fucking... I'm going to do it again. I thought you
were doing that on purpose.
No, I loved Facts of Life.
Oh, you are.
But I did. But I'm telling you, when they start bringing the boyfriends, I dropped the show.
Right. Well, Harrison was obnoxious.
Because the guys they never were good enough. These girls.
They weren't. I wonder if they did that intentionally.
Yeah, maybe.
They just brought in kind of lower,
Yeah.
I don't know, just kind of not very realized characters.
Yeah. So questions. I have one for you.
Okay. Why don't you give me your question?
This is a real match game.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
Game question.
All right, a real match game. All right. All right, let's hear it.
Okay. Joe Polnicek is so tough.
How tough is she?
She doesn't use makeup for eyeshadow. She uses blank.
Ooh.
Oh,
God.
Oh, God. Really quick, Joe has some... I like in that Tootie scene of the last episode we were talking about the racism, where all the... even when it's funny and the girls are laughing and smiling...
Yeah.
Joe really manages her smile. Like, it's very controlled. Like, she's consistently not one of them.
Yeah.
Like, you feel it, and you see it, and it's just...
She's so good.
It's just nuances, but she's
so good.
Yeah, it feels real.
All
right. Joe is so tough. She uses blank as eyeshadow.
So...
There could be numerous answers. I'm proud of myself.
Wow. I'm impressed. All right, so I am going to say... what would you use as a tough girl? I'll say like I want to say like no, I'm trying to say like the word for it, like I'm thinking like the grease from like a car engine.
That's what I have.
Oh my God!
I have motorcycle grease. I have motorcycle grease.
Oh my gosh!
You did it.
I should have said motorcycle grease because she had the motorcycle.
Yeah, motorcycle grease. That's so funny.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I also thought of like war paint, or this is a stretch, but the blood of her enemies.
Oh my God, yeah. That's good. I like that. I wanted to say my first thing that came to mind was that the stuff they put on football players underneath their eyes.
I don't know what that's called,
but I couldn't figure out what that. So, but yeah, no motor. Oil makes most sense.
Motorcycle.
Cool.
Yeah,
all right.
So good. Okay.
All right. So here's my question to you. Mm-hmm. All right. So if you had to bring back one more girl from the first season and bring her into the mix, so you're going to keep the other ones, and it would be just like it is with Joe and Blair and Tootie and
so it's really
Natalie.
The bumper crop.
But you have to grab one more to add to the mix. Who would you choose? Do you want the multiple choice, or do you think you can remember them?
Do you really have them down?
I have all but one. I couldn't remember her name.
So I'm going to tell you, but you picked one for me already.
I picked one for you already.
So I know who it is. I know who I would want. So I already know it's not going to be the two IQ girls that were fighting over the test.
Okay.
It's going to be the one who was friendly with Blair with the black hair.
Oh, good.
Because I feel like she was very ordinary, and I feel like it would have been a good equalizer for everyone.
So, that's not what I chose.
Her name. I don't remember her name, though.
Yeah. That's the one I didn't know her name. It's exactly the one I didn't know her name. But wait, who am I thinking of then? I think there's an extra one. Who was fighting for the IQ? Wasn't the dark-haired girl one of the ones that were fighting?
Hold on one second. I'm going to pull it up.
All right.
Really quick.
So anyway, so I did not choose... so I had chosen Sue Ellen, who was the one that thought she was the smartest, but she was the dumbest.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why. So I did it actually based on like what I would do. Not necessarily what you would choose.
Thanks.
But I thought you would have thought the same way I did. So I guess it's the same thing. Because we all know Molly's not going forward because of her acting ability. Cindy Lou. Cindy? Is it Cindy Lou?
Sue Ann was the blonde.
Okay, Sue Ann.
Nancy. It was Nancy. Nancy Olsen. Nancy Olsen is the one
So
I would
who's
pick.
Yeah.
There's Cindy Webster. Oh, there is. So Cindy was the tomboy.
Yeah.
Sue Ann was one of the IQ girls.
Yeah. I thought Nancy was the other IQ.
Olsen. Oh my God, who was it?
I think it was Nancy and Sue Ann were the two IQ girls.
Oh, damn.
It's fine.
All right.
So you would choose the dark-haired girl,
yeah,
Nancy. So I would choose Sue Ann. And the reason is because Cindy is too much like Joe. Molly is a terrible actress. And Nancy was too much like Blair. It's the only other one that wasn't necessarily like the others.
Yeah.
Sue Ann would have been like the dumb one, like the Rose Island one.
Oh, cute. Oh, that's a good answer.
Thanks.
What do you think?
That's it, babe.
I think that's it. And that is it for us in this episode of Old Roommates. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Old Roommates on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Give us a rating or review while you're there, please. We love our ratings.
If you have an idea for the show, a suggestion, or a comment, email us at oldroommatespod@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Old Roommates. This is Christina.
This is Brian.
Thanks again for listening. Till next time.